Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. In this video, I want to see if the overdrive pedals inside the GT-1000 are as good as actual pedals. Now, I've got three of those pedals. I've got a Big Muff. I've got a clean boost. And we've got a Tube Screamer. So we're going to go through and see if we can match up the sounds inside the GT-1000 to these pedals and see if we can get the GT-1000 to sound as good as the real things. So let's get to it. So let me just explain the setup here. So I've got the guitar plugged straight into the GT-1000 core. The GT-1000 core is then going to a Rev D20, and then the Rev D20 is then going to the Boss Tube Amp Expander. The Boss Tube Amp Expander is acting as a low box and an attenuator. So let's have a look at our Tone Studio software. So as you can see, all the blocks are turned off apart from the send and return input on one. Now this is where I'm going to have the pedals plugged into. So at the moment we've got an Earthquaker Devices Black Eye Boost. Now the Black Eye Boost is a clean type boost. So what we're going to try and do is to get the same sound that I'm getting out the clean boost out of one of the pedals that you can get in the distortion block inside the Boss GT-1000. Here's the sound of the amp just clean. And now let's bring in the Black Eye Boost. So as you can hear, it's a boost that's pushing the amp to the verge of breakup as opposed to being like a really overdriven sort of sound. It doesn't matter which one we put it in, DS1 or DS2, but let's try and match up the two different sounds. Let's drag DS2 back just after the Earthquaker Devices boost. Let's turn it off. Right, let's turn that on. Okay, now we're going to go for a clean boost on this. So let's click on clean boost and let's start from scratch. Let's bring everything back to sort of sensible levels. So the clean boost sounds like this. Let's turn it off. And bring it in. Right, what I'm going to do is add a tiny bit of drive because the Earthquaker Devices Black Eye Boost does add a tiny bit of drive. So let's just add just a touch. It's a little bit brighter, so let's just bring that up. Right, let's bring the level up as this is where the boost is coming from, as you want to drive the front of the amp. Okay, so that's the GT-1000, and this is the Black Eye Boost. Okay, so let's compare them. First of all, let's start with the Earthquaker Devices Black Eye Boost pedal. And this is a clean boost off the GT-1000. This is the Earthquaker Devices Black Eye Boost pedal. And this is the GT-1000 Clean Boost. Now we're going to compare a Ibanez Tube Screamer against the Tube Screamer emulation that's in the GT-1000. So again, as before, I plug the Tube Screamer into my send and return 1. Sounds like this. Okay, let's hear the clean amp as well. I've used the boost function on the Rev D20. We're using a Tube Screamer as I feel it needs to be used, which is to push a slightly driven amp even harder. So let's go to our DS2 block as before, and let's click on the type and let's choose T-Scream, as that's the Tube Screamer emulation. Now with the settings that we have with the boost pedal, let's see how that sounds now. Now to me that sounds even better than the Tube Screamer pedal, but that's because we haven't really got it set up like a Tube Screamer. The Rev D20 amp, when you engage the boost pedal and you give it some more level, it overdrives the front end of the amp. So we need to compensate with that by bringing that back. So let me bring back the drive and let's try and get the same volume going into the amp as what the pedal is producing. So there's about the right sort of level. Okay, let's turn the drive up so we're matching the sort of drive that we're getting out of the pedal. Let's hear that. And let's hear the actual pedal. The T-Scream emulation inside the GT-1000 is doing what a Tube Screamer does, which is sort of filtering off and cleaning up the bottom end. Now let's change the settings so we can match the pedal even more. Okay, let's turn the tone up a bit. To me, that sounds like my Tube Screamer. So let's compare the two. So here's the Tube Screamer pedal. And here's the Boss GT-1000 T-Scream. Here's the GT-1000 T-Scream. And here's the Tube Screamer. Lastly, let's have a look at a Electro Harmonix Big Muff and the Big Muff emulation that's in the GT-1000. So, right, first of all, I'm going to play the sound of the amp on its own. I've cleaned up the amp a little bit, so it sounds like this. And now let's bring the pedal in. So that's the sound of the Big Muff. Now, if you listen how noisy this pedal is, it's horrendous. So that's why it's really great to be able to use something like the GT-1000 where you can have the effects loops and you can basically just turn it off. Now let's go to our distortion block and let's see if we can cover that sort of sound inside the GT-1000 using the emulation it's got. Okay, so let's click on type and let's go all the way down and I'm going to choose Muff Fuzz. Okay, let's switch it on and see how that sounds straight out the box. Well, it's a damn sight quieter, I can tell you that. So let's try and get it to sound like the Big Muff. Now, the Big Muff has a ton more bottom end, so let's bring that right up. But it's still a little bit brighter as well. Let's bring the treble up a bit. Let's compare it against the real thing. Okay, so the pedal is a lot more spitty. It's got that sort of spitty muff sort of sound. So let's turn that on and let's bring back the drive just a little bit. Now let's compare the Big Muff with the Muff Fuzz that's in the GT-1000. So this is what the Big Muff pedal sounds like. And now this is the Bosch GT-1000 Muff Fuzz. This is the Muff Fuzz. And this is the Big Muff pedal. This is the Big Muff pedal. And this is the GT-1000 Muff Fuzz. I think this video has busted the myth that pedals sound better than the pedals that are in the GT-1000. For me, I'd much rather take around the GT-1000 and use the pedals that are built in if they sound that good. And to be honest, they do sound as good as the actual pedals that they're trying to mimic. Some of the pedals do sound slightly different to the actual real version of the pedal, but to me, that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's just different. So the Tube Screamer, for instance, I preferred the Tube Screamer inside the GT-1000. It was a lot cleaner. My Tube Screamer is quite an old one and it's quite noisy. The one that's in the GT-1000 was really clean and it cut down the noise so much. Now, let me know what you thought and what you preferred in the comments below. I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. I really hope you guys got something out of that. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did get something out of it, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.